This video is all about coming home from hospital. So it goes without saying that everybody's homes are different, everyone's families are different, so the circumstances each individual comes home to will be unique to them. So the best I can do is describe how my experience was of coming back to my home and to my family, and hopefully some of it will be useful to you. The thing I found remarkable was it was just incredible how quickly I became accustomed and acclimatized and comfortable to this incredibly secure environment that was the rehab hospital. You're not going to fall over, you're going to get your meds on time, you're going to get fed on time, they're going to get you on your feet and in the gym and doing your physio, getting the blood pumping around your body. And at the end of the day, anything you need is at the end of the click of a button. Regardless of that though, going home after such a serious and life-changing surgery, and one that you were likely terrified of before you went into hospital, is going to be a good day and one that you should be rightly excited about. But I think something really strange happens when you open your front door after leaving the secure environment of the hospital. And that is that your house looks a little less like Home Sweet Home, but more like an American Ninja Warrior course. And in my case, having two little girls and a crazy dog, it looked like the grand final of American Ninja Warrior. Or maybe I should say, Amputation Ninja Warrior.
BBO. You better get ready, we gon' run the race. Another season of American Ninja Warriors underway. And it don't matter what the age is, and it don't matter what the race is. We all trying to get to Vegas, we gotta conquer all four phases. Using a God-given ability, and you gotta have strength and agility. And I really wanna know if y'all be feeling me. Next in line, tell me who will it be? This is our moment, so on it. If you want it, why wait? Motivated till we make it, nothing stands in my way. Gotta hit the ground running, overcoming every obstacle. Gotta keep our eyes up on the prize. With God, all things are possible.
See what I mean? There was actually quite a funny story related to exactly that that kind of happened while I was in rehab. One of my physios, when I was explaining that there was always a lot of toys on the floor of our house and that they represented quite serious trip hazards, he suggested that I might use some blue decorating tape to kind of demark out pathways for my wheelchair from, like, I don't know, the lounge to the bathroom or the kitchen to the bathroom and so on. And then to say to my kids that no toys were allowed on those pathways. So obviously once I'd finished laughing my head off at that, I told him that it was a case of there being two hopes that might happen, Bob Hope and No Hope. And Bob Hope died in, I think, 2003. Wait, that was a proper dad joke. So I'm really sorry to my grown-up kids for even going there. I'm going to split the rest of this video up into 3 or 4 short parts. The first is going to be about your mobility when you get back home, and the kind of options you have and the choices that you make about that. The second is just about pure safety and the preparations you can make before you go in, and the stuff that you have no idea is going to be an issue until you get home, and then you have to kind of come up with hacks around that stuff. The third is about taking care of your legs, and I mean both legs. So your good leg is your best friend, and then you need to be best friends to your bad leg. And then the fourth and final part is I just want to say a few words about carers, because I think if you don't understand that this situation that we're in is really hard for your carer too, then you're doing them a great disservice. So, mobility around your home. When I got home, I had the choice of 3 modes of transportation. The first was a walker. Now, at my rehab hospital, they had me on a walker almost all of the time, and wheelchairs were only really used to get people from A to B. So I got pretty familiar with that. So we had one in the house, and we did that thing when you get 2 tennis balls and you put them on the 2 front legs of the walker to offer a bit of resistance against a wooden floor. But my God, we had an issue with that. What have you got, Sham? That was my dog Shamrock, who, as you can see, he loves a tennis ball. So my second mobility choice when I got home was a wheelchair, which we'd also had delivered to the house ahead of me getting home. There's an interesting kind of difference of opinion in the early amputee community about using a wheelchair. I don't know, I think there might be some kind of like hangover stigma from the non-disability community about wheelchairs full stop. But what I read a lot was that if you get into a wheelchair, then you don't get out of the wheelchair, or you spend too long in the wheelchair, you become too reliant on the wheelchair, when really you should be up and on crutches and on a walker. And I absolutely see that point. However, our house, like most houses, big or small in Texas, is very open plan, and also unique to this area is that our master bedroom is on the ground floor. So actually a wheelchair was really useful for me, specifically given the layout of this house. And then the other thing to say about it is, at nighttime, if you wake up and you need to go to the bathroom, you're gonna wobble around like hell on your crutches, but a wheelchair is a really safe option to get you there and back. So for sure, I have been using my wheelchair. Then my third option for mobility around the house was my tried and true crutches. And I've actually been on these crutches for over 8 months now, and they've been pretty good to me. So there's a couple of things to say about them. The first is they're elbow crutches. It goes without saying that elbow crutches just alleviate some of the pressure through your arms. The crutches that go under your armpits are just really uncomfortable. So if you know you're going to be on a set of crutches for a longer period of time, so I thought I was going to be on crutches for 3 months, which is a long period of time, but it ain't as long as 8, then I do think that these are worth the money. And I would never come on to this blog encouraging people to splash cash on stuff that was unnecessary. But long period of time on crutches, I do think it's worth the money to get them. The second thing to say about them, and it's been the most useful thing to me, is that right at the end here, they have a kind of bit of shock absorption built into them. So for instance, if you're going up the stairs, that little bit of give really does kind of help you out in terms of alleviating the kind of constant pressure on your body and your back and so on. So that's been really helpful. There's a few things on these crutches that might be a little unnecessary. So there's a little flashlight on each of the crutches. There is a little BP alarm here that you can press. And then of course there's the high-vis stripes in case you get lost in the fog. But seriously, I'm sure that there are many people for whom that functionality is useful in certain circumstances. But yeah, they've been really, really worthwhile for me. In summary then, my 2 mobility choices for getting around the house are the wheelchair and the crutches. I'd say that I'm on the crutches probably 70 to 75% of the time. Generally throughout the day, unless the kids are around or the dogs are around going bananas and they represent a kind of a trip hazard to me. I use them when, for instance, I go to physio. So I'll use them to get to the car, and I'll use them to get out of the car into the gym. And essentially I use the wheelchair when I'm tired or in the middle of the night, because I think in both of those circumstances, you do represent a little bit of a risk to yourself. So the wheelchair seems to me to be the sensible option in those situations. But again, this is absolutely unique to me and my circumstances, and you will figure it out for yourself. Next up are a few words on general safety around the home when you come back from hospital. Now, please bear in mind that these are just some of my thoughts and suggestions based on my recent experiences. This is by no means a public safety film, and I'd hate to be responsible for anyone falling over and hurting themselves. Actually, for the word safety, you might as well read not falling over. Because that is singularly the most important thing that you need to bear in mind at all times when you get home. And actually, on so many message boards and Facebook groups, you'll see the statement, you will fall over. You will fall over when you get home from hospital. So you come home with absolutely the best intentions to be really careful and really vigilant so that you don't fall over. I was actually doing pretty well with that up until about 3 or 4 days ago, when I decided it would be a good idea to go and put a load of laundry in the machine myself. So I wheeled myself to the washing machine, stood up holding a big pile of laundry, lost my balance and absolutely stacked it. I smacked my head off the wall, I cracked my elbow down on the floor, my good leg came smashing down on the floor, but somehow, miraculously, I managed to protect my residual limb, and it just was the last thing to hit the floor and just bounce gently on the ground. So that was a bit of a relief. But what it showed me and what it taught me was it taught me my boundaries, and it taught me what my realistic limits were, and therefore not to push against those, because it's only going to end up one way. So in my opinion, the most important spaces in your home where you have to prepare for your return from hospital are bathrooms, showers, toilets, not least because they get wet. So come with me, if you will, into our bathroom. So these are the bars that we had put in our shower. If you hear some background noise on this video, it's because I've been joined in the shower. Hello, Shamrock. You'll see that one bar is horizontal, one bar is vertical, and that was actually based on some advice I was given in rehab. And the term that they used for that was fall options. So if you do happen to slip, having your bars in 2 different directions kind of just gives you the reach out options if you're on your way to hitting the deck. We did have problems getting these on because we learned that there was both power and water behind these walls. So in the end, we just kind of bit the bullet and found a company who specialize in kind of home safety for the disabled and the elderly and so on, because it was kind of just not worth the risk to do anything else. And on that subject, there are bars that you can buy on Amazon that are suction based. And I've got to tell you, do not buy them. So we bought 2, we put them exactly where you're looking at the fixed bars now. The very first time I was in the shower, I grabbed them and they both popped off. They shouldn't sell them, or at least they shouldn't sell them with any suggestion that they're significantly weight bearing. And frankly, the only relevance of the word suction is the first 3 letters, because they really, really do suck. I'll show you them, but we sent them back same day. Then 2 last quick things to wrap up the safety section of this video that we've done in our house and that have been pretty useful. The first is we've used double-sided duct tape to tape down the edges of our rugs that are on either like hardwood floor or tiled floor, because I was finding those really dangerous, and actually both on my crutches and in the wheelchair. So that's been useful. And then the second is just to leave a couple of lights on at night, provided you use energy saving, environmentally friendly light bulbs, of course, but light your way to the bathroom, light your way to the kitchen. It's a really small thing, but it's a very, very safe thing to do. Next is your legs. As I said earlier, your good leg is your best friend right now, and will be from the time you have your surgery to the time you're actually fitted with your prosthetic. And I think this is the area where I've kind of come up with the most kind of hacks and fixes to ensure that my good leg is as safe as possible. So I've used a few pictures to demonstrate those things. My historic ankle issues were always in part a result of having really high arches. And whilst my right leg took the brunt of this issue over the years and has just paid the ultimate price, I've now only got my left leg. So I'm doing a couple of things to keep it safe. First, high arch insoles. for all of my shoes that I bought on Amazon that weren't expensive, but they do offer a ton of steadiness on that inside of my foot that otherwise wouldn't be there. Next, I'm wearing a really simple elasticated athletic ankle support on my left leg, because whilst it's taking all of my weight until I get my prosthetic, the risk of rolling it or spraining it is of course much higher. So wearing one of these just offers that extra bit of stability and protection. I'll talk about the fact that I'm essentially wearing tights in a moment because they relate to both of my legs. Now onto my residual limb. You'll see in the photograph that I'm wearing a skateboarder's knee pad. This being the very first time I've ever bought anything related to skateboarding, but I did because I saw yet another guy on YouTube explaining that if you do fall over, the best way to protect your residual limb is to focus and concentrate on hitting the ground first with your knee, but then you don't want to screw your knee up, so maybe wear a knee pad to protect it. However, I now actually wear it for a different reason, which is a bit of a physiotherapy hack, and that is it keeps my leg straight, which is the best possible preparation for a prosthetic. And as an extra bonus in my new circumstances, it's very much a case of buy one, get one free. My last leg tip relates to temperature regulation, and it's why I'm wearing base layer compression leggings, bought from Amazon, and then, not unlike my good self, with one of the legs chopped off. And I'm wearing them because I noticed that I just couldn't stay consistently cool or warm. And I guess this made sense because key area of my body for keeping me cool in shorts was my right leg, and that right leg has now gone. So in wearing the leggings, I seem to have balanced my brain's understanding of the temperature across my two legs, one that's there and one that's not. And as my doctor said to me last week, if I was a car, I'd have just lost 15 to 20% of my radiator, and I'd be using 15 to 20% less coolant, which is an analogy that made total sense to me and is an analogy that ends this looking after your legs section. Finally, and absolutely in the spirit of leaving the best till last, I just wanted to speak for a minute about carers. Because regardless of what you're able to do for yourself, what you manage to do for yourself, the truth is the majority of your safety and well-being will be assured by these people. I think that, of course, when this is happening to you, of course, when it's you that's been in surgery, you kind of think very much about yourself at the very center of the whole situation. But it affects our carers really badly, and actually in many ways very differently to how it affects us. I can tell you that throughout what ended up being a protracted period of ill health for me, multiple surgeries, and actually in the last month or two, some really quite scary moments for us as a family. You know, I had to ask my wife Mary to do some stuff that was so way outside of anyone's comfort zone. But she did it without complaining and generally with a smile on her face. For instance, after the surgery that I had immediately prior to my amputation, I came home with this kind of horrid septic drainage vacuum bag device attached to my leg, and this thing needed to be emptied twice a day and the volume of it needed to be measured, so we ended up decanting it into this old baby's bottle so we could measure it accurately. And then even prior to that, I had like a really bad infection in one of my prior surgery wounds, and it needed changing multiple times a day, and it was just like horrible work to have to do. And I ended up saying to Mary, you know, the day we got married, when you said for better or for worse, it's a good job that you meant it. And I just felt so profoundly, and still continue to feel profoundly grateful for all of that. So anyway, and I'm sure I don't need to say this, but forgive me because I'm going to say it. But I just urge you to recognize quite how hard, quite how complex, how time consuming, how exhausting looking after us is when we get home from hospital for the people that are caring for us. And you know, the truth is, we'd be absolutely screwed without them. So make sure you thank them, tell them that you love them, and maybe most importantly, and in the nicest possible way, make sure they get plenty of time away from you. And I think all of that being done, you'll have a pretty happy house.